Hey there, hey there, hey there. So, hey, Natasha, thanks for joining
Hi.
us there. We are on Tuesday, Tech Tuesdays here at KWCLM, and we're going to go ahead and stop this for a second so we can just chat and get to the know in here. So, we are on Facebook Live right now. We are on YouTube Live over on this side of my screen, and we're on Zoom on this screen here. So, we got it going on all different places. If you're watching in any one of those places and you want to join in, feel free to come to the kwtechtv.com website, which is basically my Zoom room here. And I'd love to have you in. I'm Robert Vincent. I'm the Market Center Technical Trainer here at 463, which is our Market Center, Portsmouth. And glad to have you here. Natasha, you're a new face. Welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm excited. A lot to learn.
Yeah. So you're a new agent with us here?
Yes. Just brand new.
All right.
So yeah.
Well, we're going to be talking about DocuSign today. This is we're in the Tech Tuesday class is actually broken down into three sections. The DocuSign is always at 11 a.m. on Tuesdays, and that's what we're doing today. And then at 1 o'clock, we kind of back it up a little bit. We do the Command 101 series, and that happens every month. We repeat it, so it's basically contract to close. Contact, I should say, contact to close. And then we do that every Tuesday throughout the month. And then at 3 o'clock on Tuesdays, we do an intermediate class. It sounds weird. We call it the Command 301 because it's at 3 o'clock, but it's an intermediate class, and we go over something more, kind of in the middle. And today, the Command 101, we're doing all about contacts. So it's going to be everything to do with contacts. And then at 3 o'clock, we're going to be talking about designs in the command application. But for now, we're going to be focusing on DocuSign, specifically inside of DocuSign, understanding all about forms, what forms are, how to use them, the difference between forms and documents and PDFs, fillable fields, a whole bunch of stuff. So we're going to start there. So for you, Natasha, this might be a little bit like a one step forward,
Yeah.
but trust me, this is going to be very valuable. And we're going to be focusing on one specific thing. So it's not going to be a lot of things coming at you.
I
So,
have worked in the legal environment where we use DocuSign.
oh,
Yeah.
wonderful.
So, but I'm not an advanced user by any means, but I do have some sort of basic knowledge of it.
Excellent. That's going to make
Yeah.
a big
Yeah.
difference. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to feel comfortable in there. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead for you in Zoom. We're going to go ahead and share this screen. For those of you who are on YouTube and also on the Facebook channel, you already see my screen up there, my login screen. So what we're doing right now is we're going to talk about getting into DocuSign from command. And I always do this, even though it seems like it's not related to what we're talking about. I always show you the same path to get to DocuSign, and it's not DocuSign.com. So we'll start off by logging into command. Now, new users, you may have a username and password that Brittany Goodale has given you, and you can use that password to log in to command. And then from there, we're going to make sure a couple of things are squared away, and we're going to get into DocuSign. So once again, once we are inside of command, we always navigate to our DocuSign room, the specific room for our transaction, via command. And we can always check to make sure command is connected right from up here in the top right-hand corner under our profile icon. If we go down to settings, this is something that will happen in your initial onboarding with me in your tech setup. You will be connected to DocuSign. So right now we are connected. That's why it says disconnect account. So we are connected. And once that's done, then the next steps are going to make it pretty much seamless to get from command to DocuSign. So to do that, we always start with a contact. So we always look at everything in everything in command is based on a contact. So when we say that we're working with any transaction, it's always around a contact. So if I'm looking for a contact, and I'll go ahead and grab my sample contact that I always use here, Jackie Astuto. And so I searched for, in the contact area, I searched for Jackie Astuto. So I'll open up Jackie Astuto. And here we have the contact information on the left and our timeline of transactions and activities on the right. So we're going into the opportunities section here now. And the opportunities still inside the contact. We're still inside the contact. So we're going to the opportunities, and I'm going to create a new opportunity. And again, I always show this every single time so that I can kind of do it by repetition for you guys. So I clicked the create new opportunity button inside the contact, and it brings me to this dialog box. So we need to select the opportunity type, and I'll choose a listing as a demonstration here. So I've chosen that this is going to be a listing for my client, Jackie Astuto, who is already in this room. And that's why we start here, because this puts her into the transaction automatically without us having to search for it. And here's a little tip for you. We always name the opportunities with a very simple convention: who, what, where. So we always start off with the who. It's the name of the person, Jackie Astuto, the primary signer. The what is, in this case, a listing, and it could be a buying, could be a landlord, could be a lease, whatever it is. And then the where is always the address of the property in the transaction. Now, keep in mind that we do understand that listings are easy because a listing is always about a property. But a buying opportunity, you may not have the name or the property address the day that you create this, because it's a buying opportunity. You're going to look for houses. Don't worry about that. You can always come back later on and put this in here, but it is something that is required for compliance to eventually, when you're getting ready to just submit your paperwork, to make sure that the name of the opportunity contains the address of the property. All right, then we'll come down here and we'll click on the commission rate field, and I'll put 3%. This is your side of the deal. It's always the side that you're getting paid on and the amount that you're getting paid from KW. There is some other optional information here, but we're going to skip that for now. We're going to go ahead and click on create. And I'm going to see that we have now on February 8th, inside of Jackie Astuto's contact record, we have a brand new opportunity for 123 Main Street. So to open that opportunity, we click on it here on the right-hand side, and we're getting closer to DocuSign. So we're going to quickly create we're going to grab the listing, and don't worry too much about this right now, because we talk about this in detail when we're going through the opportunity setup. So we're getting towards DocuSign. So we're just doing all the stuff that we typically do. So I've got the contact, I've got the transaction property, and I've got everything ready to go here. Now I'm going to go to the documents area. So that's the key thing I want everybody to remember, is that when we are going to start our transaction in DocuSign, we always start that transaction from the Documents tab of the opportunity. So here we are on the Documents tab. And on the Documents tab, we have on the left-hand side the checklist picker. So we can choose what kind of document checklist we're going to use. Now, these aren't the documents. These are the checklist and the locations in command where we will eventually put all of the documents. So we need to pick the right checklist for this type of property. So why this is so neat, because the name of my opportunity is who, what, and where. So the who is Jackie Astuto, the what is listing, and the where is New Hampshire. So that actually tells me what checklist type I need. And it's a what and where. I need a New Hampshire listing checklist. So that was easy. So we were always picking the right checklist for the opportunity type and location. So by the way, we do now have Vermont in here. So if you're in Vermont, we have New Hampshire, Maine, Mass, commercial New Hampshire, new construction New Hampshire, and Vermont. So we have all the checklists that you'll need. So here is my checklist of documents. And you can see that some of these documents have a little DS and a green box on them. This indicates that when we create the DocuSign room, these documents, which are state or real estate agency documents, these are real estate documents, these will automatically load into the DocuSign room, and they are going to pre-populate with all of the information that we just set up in the opportunity. Half of our work is going to be done by clicking this button, because it's going to load the documents and load in the information in the documents for us. So we're going to click on Start a Transaction. Now, for those of you who are not using .loop and DocuSign, when you click this button, it's going to go straight into create a DocuSign loop. A DocuSign loop, that's a funny one. A DocuSign room. For those of you who do happen to have .loop and DocuSign, you will see a drop down. And in my case, I do have both of them installed. So I'm going to make sure that I select the correct one, which is DocuSign. So as soon as I do this, because I have not logged into DocuSign yet this morning, it's going to ask me to log into DocuSign and create the room. So I'll select DocuSign, got the little spinner there, and it's going to load up the DocuSign interface, and it's going to say, okay, let's log into DocuSign and create this. So we go continue on our username. If we have to enter it, we can enter it, and then continue on our password, and we can enter that there. And now it's going to create and bring me directly into the DocuSign room. Now, Natasha, if you're familiar with this, what you're seeing here, and I'm not sure if in your environment before you used DocuSign Rooms, but DocuSign Rooms is different from DocuSign eSignature. So these are actually different. When you are looking at your profile up in the right-hand corner, you can actually see that you can switch to eSignature. So eSignature is the traditional DocuSign signing tool that is available for non-commercial real estate, or non-real estate users. So this is what you might be familiar with seeing. So you can always switch between eSignature and Rooms by going up to your profile icon and choosing Switch to Rooms or Switch to eSignature. So we're going to be focused on Rooms, which is real estate centric. So this might look a little bit new, but essentially, this is what we have. So our room, and I'm going to go back into the actual room that was just created. And I'm going to focus on this one room because we're going to be talking from here on out about the forms that we use, documents that we use, and PDFs that we use, and how the fields work and everything. So the number one thing we need to know is that all of the information that came from command, and it's all on the details tab here. We have all the information about the transaction, the who, what, why, where, everything. In addition to all of this information, there is also the information about the MLS, the actual listing. All of that information came into DocuSign for us without us having to enter a single thing. And the proof is, if I go to the details tab of the DocuSign room and I look, I can see the name of the opportunity. I can see the MLS ID. I can see seller one's information. And if I just collapse these to make it easier, if there was a seller two, that would have been transferred over. Here is my listing agent information already populated. If I had a second listing agent in here, that would be populated. Buyer one, if it was added, buyer two, so forth. So you can see all of these fields here from seller one all the way down through buyer agent two. If that information exists in command as part of the transaction, it will be brought over so that you don't have to do it. And in addition to the MLS information, we get the street address, we get the county, we get all that stuff about it. We get the listing date, the expiration, the cost, we get the contract amount. So everything comes in. Love it. Which means that when we actually go to the documents area of the application, all of these documents, if there are any fields on these documents that refer to data that has now been entered in the details field, they're already populated. So I'll take the property disclosure, for example. So I click on the property disclosure, which was automatically loaded for me, and I open it up, and it's going to look at it here and see those little fields. These fields are already populating with information from the details page, which means you don't have to do it. Now, what you're looking at is our first exposure to forms. This is not a document, even though you will hear me and you'll hear other people say, load up a document in DocuSign and get it ready for filling out. This is technically a DocuSign form. And what that really means is the NAR and your local real estate boards provide Keller Williams with the legal documents that are required for these filling out procedures. Now, these documents that they provide are converted into forms. These forms are fillable objects. You can see there's blank spots in here for us to put stuff. And there's also spots that are down below where in this case, the seller is going to complete. Now, these are not editable by us, even though they are editable by the person signing. So we can't edit them because we're not allowed to. It says right here, to be completed by seller. So we can complete the basic information, seller, property address, and all that. And that information is being populated into this form because of our connection to command and all the information that we gave it. So when we slide down this form a little bit further, you're going to see there's sections for seller initials and buyer initials. And to be clear, I am not a real estate agent, nor am I a broker. So none of this information is about the legal requirements. We are just talking about the technical aspect of what we're doing here. And the technical aspect is there's the space for these seller initials is here, but there's no box, because this actually happens when the form is sent out. Those boxes are added, and they're added in the background. And this is what confuses people a lot when they're dealing with forms inside of DocuSign. They're like, why can't I put my initials if the agent's initials were required on a document? Why can't I put my initials in here and fill it out before I send it? And the answer is signature processes are certified through DocuSign, which means what we're doing now isn't certified. What we're doing now is pre-filling. We're just getting it ready. The signature process is actually tracked by the IP address of who signed it, when they signed it, all the stuff that is required for legal documents. So you can't sign it before you send it. So that's why these things are unavailable. So when you look at signature fields or initial fields here, you're not even going to see the actual options to do it. In a moment, we will. So as we go through this particular document, I want you to remember that this is one of those documents that is completed by the seller. So there's only some basic information that we as the agent are allowed to fill out. All of this other goodness will light up when we send this information out to be signed. The seller, whether it be seller 1 or seller 2, will have access to those fields. So that's what forms do. They give you the opportunity to pre-fill some of the data that is decidedly information that is coming from the details area, from the transaction itself. And it also sets it up so that the other fields that other people need to fill out or sign will automatically be added in the right place when it's time to go out. So why is this different from any other type of document that we bring into DocuSign? Quite simply, all of these little things that are these fields for the yeses and the nos and the slots for comments and all that, this is predetermined by Keller Williams when we work with DocuSign to build these forms. So those objects are in known places because the document doesn't change. The ink, the printing ink, those lines don't change. So we know exactly where those checkboxes and radio buttons and fillable fields are supposed to be. So we build them into the form, and then the form is used to send out for signature. PDF forms or even just plain old Word documents or Excel spreadsheets or anything like that, those type of objects, the system has no idea where you're supposed to sign them, where the seller's supposed to go, or where the buyer is, or where the agent goes. Because it has no knowledge of that, it won't pre-fill any of those fields, because it's like, hey, as far as I'm concerned, this is a blank white piece of paper. I got nothing here. So documents and PDFs have no known places for these fields. So you have to put them in manually. Manually sucks. Because can you imagine trying to fill out this property disclosure form and putting every single checkbox, every single field in adding them in here? Here's the thing. I know agents who have done this. They didn't know about these forms, so they ended up having a PDF version of an old blank one. They loaded it in here, and they would take hours to build these fields and signatures and checkboxes and all that. We don't want you wasting that kind of time. There is a requirement to use a form, number one, but more importantly, it's just faster. So let's take a look now. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this, and we're going to make the assumption that, we're going to use that form in a moment. So when we were in command, I mentioned that there was a bunch of green DS fields here. These are the documents that did in fact populate in command. But you can see there's more than that. We require the current deed to be uploaded. Well, the current deed is not a DocuSign form. It's something that you have to go get. So this, although it is required, is something that is outside of any system, and it needs to be gotten as a scan and loaded into this field. There are other documents in this that we're going to need that come from forms that are conditional. So when we have a conditional form, you can hover over where the conditional statement says, if property is a condominium, co-op, PUD, and other homeowner organization, you will need a property disclosure writer. Now that property disclosure writer is available in DocuSign as a form, and you can bring it into that room and then send it out to be filled out and brought back in. So if we know that for a property disclosure writer, we're going to go back to DocuSign now, and we're going to talk about the fact that all of these forms came into this room automatically, but there is a bunch more forms that are available. Generally speaking, and I say this because we've done a really good job of making sure that you have access to all of the forms that you need in DocuSign. Generally speaking, all of the forms you need are off of this one button called Add. In the Documents area of DocuSign, there's a blue button called Add. And when you click that, you're going to see that you can bring documents or forms to this room by choosing from your computer, from DocuSign Forms, which is what I'm going to show you in a moment. It's a database of forms. From Zip Forms, if you're a main agent and you're using DocuSign, you can get your main real estate forms from that link, Zip Forms. You can also get them if you've stored documents on Dropbox, and you can connect your Google Drive as well. But I want to be very clear. The only fillable forms that are real estate agency or real estate NAR approved, the only ones that are approved like that are available in DocuSign or Zip Forms. Any other location, any other place where you bring these documents in, they are not forms and they are not necessarily approved. And what I mean by that sounds pretty aggressive, but what it means is the forms that are available in the DocuSign Forms area and in the Zip Forms area of DocuSign, those forms are maintained to be the most current versions. You don't have the option of downloading an out-of-date form. Whereas any other location from your computer, if you've got a scan of one, or Dropbox or Google Drive, or somebody sending you one, if that's the case, then those forms, we can't really guarantee that they're the most up-to-date, accurate forms, which is why we want you to use DocuSign Forms or Zip Forms. Everything you need will be there. You don't need to go elsewhere, okay? Now, having said that, these are the forms that we have, the 6 forms. And I want you to note also that these forms all have a blue icon that say form on them. And all I did here was I really quickly switched between list view and grid view. So these blue form items indicate to you that these are fillable, registered forms that are the most up to date in the case of us in DocuSign. To get more of those, we click Add and we click DocuSign Forms. And when we do that, we're presented with the Select Forms dialog box. And in here, we can browse all of the different groups and libraries, and I'll get to those in a second. And we can also see which documents we have selected. And I'm just going to show you this selected thing really quick because this is a time saver. So let's say that we wanted to get this form, advertising policy, from the current folder we're looking at. And maybe we want to go to the NHAR and we wanted to get an addendum. Notice that I did not hit the add selected to bring them to the room just yet. All I'm doing is pre-selecting 2 different documents from 2 different locations. And then I can come back up here to the selected and say, are those the 2 documents that I need? I can see the full names of them, including the revised dates. So the addendum, there's no revised date on the addendum, but the advertising policy is got a revision date. So now I can say, okay, yes, those are the 2 that I need. Or, oops, maybe I forgot one. I can go back to browse, find the location for the document that I'm looking for, and then grab the clauses if I need it, for example. Click on select it again and say, yes, those are the documents I need, and add selected. And the reason I show you this, you guys, is because I see a lot of people go in here, they'll grab one form, and then they'll click the add selected, and the dialog box is going to disappear. And then they got to go back in here to get the next 5 forms. So save yourself some time, select all the forms you need at one time, and then bring them in all at once. So let's talk about those forms. Now, I've got a bunch that are the required forms in the room already, but I'm going to come back in and we're going to talk about that property disclosure rider. So this form is maybe one that I need to bring into my room because my conditions have been met. So I need to have that form filled out. So here I'm going to go ahead and say property disclosure rider. That's exactly what I'm looking for. As a matter of fact, I'm going to copy the name of that from command because that's exactly the name that was given this thing. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to start off with the NHAR forms, and I'm going to click on this and I'm going to hit property disclosure rider. So I'm going to paste it in there. And now I can see, oh, hey. We got 2 of you.
I'll get out.
I wasn't sure if that was you or not. All right, now I've got you muted, so go ahead and unmute.
I can't see anything. Zoom conked out on me, so I'm gonna have to. I don't know what to do.
Is it still conked out?
Yeah. It says so that I have to pay now, so I don't know what the.
You pay?
Yeah.
You joined a meeting. It shouldn't ask you to do anything like that.
I don't want to take up your time, though.
No, listen. Go ahead and leave. Did you go to KW Tech TV and log in? Is that how you got here?
I went to, yes.
Okay,
yes,
there's no reason for that to say paid. This is my room. I pay for this to be able to present it to you. Log out and log back in. And when you come back in, we'll see if that does that again.
Okay. I don't want to take up your time.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
All right.
Go ahead and log out and log back in.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what, I'm going to kick you out so that it'll go quicker. So I'll remove you.
Yeah, so I'm doing launch meeting and it's not doing anything.
Okay. I'm going to kick you out and then do the launch meeting again, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So for those of you who are with me on Zoom, well, on Facebook and on YouTube, I'm going to continue and we're going to wait for Natasha to come back in. There she comes. So we're sitting here and all I did was I pasted in the name of the document that I'm looking for. Natasha, did it come back?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay. So I pasted in the property disclosure rider here and I was looking in the NHAR forms and it shows me there's the NHAR multifamily property rider, disclosure rider, and the property disclosure rider. So this is a good example of me searching for the right document, because if I had just typed in property disclosure, I would have gotten 15 documents, but I wanted the property disclosure rider, and here it is narrowed down to 1 of 2. So I'll go ahead and click on this. Notice also that before I even bring this in, there is a preview button that I can actually see what this looks like. This is something that they've added recently to make your life a little bit easier. So you can actually view the form and say, oh, you know what? This is the multifamily. I need the other one. So you can actually view it before you bring it in. All right. So now that I have this NHAR property disclosure rider, I'm going to bring it in. I want you to watch something cool. Want you to watch? Yeah. I'm going to bring it in and it's going to add it to the room, and it adds it down here. And in a couple of seconds, a thumbnail is going to be generated and we'll see an actual image of that document. So here we go. Okay, so here is that document. Now, do you remember I said that when we create the room in DocuSign, all of the details from command get passed over, and any document that refers to any of the information in the details area automatically populates. Well, we just brought this document in from the library. Is it going to fill out with all of the data? And the answer is yes. With what I had placed in the details area. So any new document that I bring in on the DocuSign form will fill out. Notice that the association name for the property disclosure rider, which is what this is for, is a field that I can fill out. Here's your clue when you, as the agent, are looking at DocuSign forms that come from the forms library. This, well, the names and the street and the city and the state and all that, they populated because it was available. However, DocuSign and you may not know the name of the association form until you know it. So at that point, Neely. So this is where you as the agent can fill this out. And let's be clear, because this field is editable, this is for you to fill it out versus these fields down here, which are not available for you. So you are the one who's going to need to fill this out, because if you sent this out blank with this with the association name blank, then the receiver wouldn't be able to fill it out because this is a field you need to fill out. So you can always tell what you as the agent need to fill out on these documents. Okay. All right. So when I slide down a little bit further, this one here does show that there's going to be a buyer signature, a seller signature, but there are no signature spots for me as the agent. So I don't need to worry about my agent information here. And as a matter of fact, I don't even need to add myself to the document because there's no place for me to sign. Okay. So now we know that we can, and by the way, there is a save and close button here when you add information. Like I added the name of an association here. So I'm going to click on save and close to embed that information into the DocuSign form. So now we have 7 documents in here, and we have the disclosure rider that we've also completed. So you as the agent are going to need to go through each of the 6 originals. In this case, it's a listing. So we have 6 files, blah, 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 blah. You need to go through all of these and make sure that anything that you need to fill out is filled out. And then anything that the receiver needs to fill out, they will be able to fill out. So I want to talk about that, the receiver part of this for a moment. So I'm going to show you on this property disclosure. We're going to take the property disclosure form and we're going to move this form into an envelope for signature. So we know that there's fields on here that we needed to make sure we filled out, but we also know that most of this, if not all of it, is going to be filled out by the person signing it at the end of the day. So in this moment, I'm just verifying that everything's done. Once I'm satisfied with that, I can click right up here. There's a little paper icon with a dog-eared edge. And one of those options on that is create envelope. Now I'm only showing you this here because this is one of 3 places where you can create an envelope from a document. This is place number 1 when you're actually editing the document form. See, look at me using the words interchangeably, even though they are distinctly different. This is a DocuSign form. So when you're editing the form, you can click on create an envelope. I'm not going to do that here because we're going to hit save and close. We're going to go back to the document screen and we can right click the document if it's one document, and we can click create envelope from here. So in both cases, we would have created an envelope with a single document in it. But there may be a case where you want to add multiple documents to a single envelope and send them all out at the same time. To do that, you just put a checkbox in the upper left-hand corner of one or more of the documents that you want to send. And when you do that, you're going to see a brand new toolbar of icons light up. That toolbar wasn't here when you have nothing selected. It's not visible. But when you select something, it becomes visible. When you do that, you have several options. You can copy, you can move, by move meaning to a different folder or a different room. Email, which is not a signature process. Combine, put them into one document. Create an envelope for signatures. Download, archive, and delete. All right, so we have those options there. So now that we have the 3, I don't want to do 3 for this example because it's too much to take in for just the one part here. So we take the one document and we're going to go ahead and click create signature or create envelope. So the envelope process, and I'm going to zip through this because I'll tell you what's going to happen. This envelope process in DocuSign, we're going to cover in detail next week. So I'm not going to get too deep in the woods here. I wanted to focus on forms this week so you understand how they work in this process, but we're going to go deep into the process next week. So having said that, I'm going to quickly give you the guidelines here. Number 1, always name the room something appropriate for what you're doing. Property disclosure form for Jackie Astuto. Okay. So I'm just giving the name of the room, something for me. Number 2, the message to the recipient. Please sign this property disclosure form. Thank you. All right. And then I can put a message down here. Jackie, it was great talking with you today. Please sign this form. And if you have any questions, please reach out. Okay. So now I just did the main things about this envelope so that for me, I know what's in it. And so the person receiving it knows what this is about. The next part is in the middle. The document has already been added to the envelope. And now I need to tell the document who's going to sign it by saying add recipient. And this is where I really want to focus, because in a moment, I'm going to show you another form, or another document, a PDF to be more specific. I'm going to show you a PDF, and you're going to see different options on this add recipient. Pre-tagged roles are only available on DocuSign forms. And what they do, and I'll open this up, is allow you to connect who's in the details area with where they're supposed to sign on the document. They are already pre-tagged in the details area as sender, or as seller 1, seller 2, buyer 1, buyer 2, agent, all of those roles. Those pre-tagged roles have locations already pre-built on the document. So if I say seller 1 is going to be Jackie Astuto, and there's nobody else on the document, then the system will automatically know to take seller 1, and anywhere that seller 1 is required on the document, they're going to put Jackie Astuto's name. It's going to save me tons of time. This is not available on PDF forms because PDFs don't know where people are supposed to sign. They don't know who seller 1 is or what it means. So this is only something you can use when you're using DocuSign forms. So I'll hit add selected. It's going to take a moment, and it's going to load up Jackie Astuto. Now, again, this is a very simple example. We have one person signing the document. We have their name and their email, and we have defined that they play the role of seller 1. So I'm going to click next. On the next page, everything that I need to do is already done on this document right now, because all of the fields that I filled out in the beginning, Jackie Astuto 123 Main Street, Epping, they're done. All of the fields that Jackie needs to fill out have already been highlighted with checkboxes, radio buttons, fields, including the signature area and everything. I don't need to touch anything. You can have confidence, it's not perfect, but you can have a high level of confidence that this document is ready to go now, because all of those, look at that. Can you imagine trying to do all of that yourself? Just no, absolutely not. So now that we have that all ready to go, we can hit send. This is going to send this document out to Jackie. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. And in the background here, while that is sending, I'm going to bring up Jackie Astuto's email, because I actually do have an account for this pseudo person. All right. Come on. There we go. All right. So I will share this with you guys in the Zoom room. So I'm going to share the inbox. And you can see here it says, please sign. Now, for those of you who are watching on Facebook, trust me, I'll be with you in a second, because I've got two screens going. So in Zoom, you can see that it says review document. And I'm going to go ahead and click on review document. And now it's going to open up in the main window here for me to do the signature process for Jackie Astuto. So now that we have Jackie Astuto's, what she would see, we can go ahead and sign for, well, I'm signing on her behalf right now, just to kind of make it work. Click continue, and all of those fields, all of those checkboxes are hers, and they're ready to go. Now, without me actually going through this, I'm going to go ahead and just ignore all of the radio buttons. I'm going to adopt a signature and sign it. And we got the signatures, ba-boom, ba-boom. So she's signing everything. Great. Signatures, initials, great. And I'll click finish. This document took 0 time to prepare if it was done right, because now we know that Jackie had all the places to sign, all the things that were ready to go, and that document has come back to us signed by her. So here in command, not in command, I'm too fast now. Here in DocuSign, you can see we have our envelopes section now, and it automatically took us here. And inside the envelope section, we can see that there is a signed statement for seller one, Jackie Studo, the only person who has done this. So our form has been completely signed. So I'm going to go ahead and go back now to the documents area, and we're going to see what happened in the documents area to our form. And it comes down to this. We have our blue forms, which we know, and I'm going to go ahead and make this a little smaller so you can see it on the screen. We don't need to see the actual information on the thumbnails. Every blue document in here is in fact a DocuSign form, but we now have a green form in here, and we have a red PDF. Both of these are actually PDFs. The red PDF is the certification of the signature process. That certification is just the legal document showing that DocuSign certifies that this was signed by this person. The other document, the green document, is the signed copy. And when you look at the signed copy here, don't worry so much about the document itself. I want you to look up here in the upper left-hand corner, and you can see the name of the document, NHAR Property Disclosure, Residential Only, signed. So this document is the document that needs to go back to command. So we now have a completely signed and sealed. And what I mean by sealed is we can't edit the information. We put a checkbox here. The only actual filling out that I did for Jackie was type of system. I put seasonal, and I just put a checkbox there. All this other information was from the previous. And we got these initials. We got down at the very, very bottom, we've got a signature with a date, and we've got our initials there. This is the document, the green document that needs to go back to command. So the beauty of this is I've had command open this whole time on a tab to the left. Now that I know that I've got a signed document, I can go back to command, and I can go get that document and bring it into command very easily. So in command, I'm going to refresh the page. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I'm doing this all pretty much simultaneously. In most cases, you're not going to need to worry about this because you're going to do this today and then come back tomorrow and pull the signed documents and so forth. But I just came back into command and I refreshed the page. And on this page, I have the property disclosure requirement for this document. To get that document here, you would think, okay, well, click the select button and grab it from DocuSign. Well, somebody down in Texas and in DocuSign decided to make things difficult for us. And I'm not happy about this. So don't think this is something that I'm like, yay, this is fun. This sucks. When you are in command, it knows that you're going to DocuSign to get the documents because you've started a transaction, and it knows that. What it doesn't know is which folder in DocuSign you're storing your signed documents. Now, the crappy thing about this is there's actually only one folder initially, and it's called Room Docs. And that Room Docs folder, I'm going to jump back to DocuSign here and show you, that Room Docs folder is the only folder in this room right now. So the fact that they didn't automatically default it to say, show me the documents in the Room Docs folder kind of ticks me off. But the point of it was that now you can organize your folders in DocuSign to contain just signed documents, just forms, just certifications, and so forth. Now, I'm not going to get into that today, but just know that right now, all of our forms, signed or not, are in the Room Docs folder in DocuSign, which means we need to pull the working folder from DocuSign as Room Docs, which will make all of these select options light up, and it will give us the option to click the down arrow and to find the signed property disclosure and attach it to command. Now, without all my talking, think of it this way. Once you've got the document signed, you come back to command, click the select button, find the document, click the document, and it will load it from DocuSign into the slot. That's the actual process. So I'll remove that because we don't need it. And there we go. So now this document is ready for submission, ready for review. So I can go and hit submit to the Market Center and have them take a look at it. The general rule, and Natasha, if you're going to be joining us Thursday for the orientation class, one of the things that Tristan is going to be talking about, and also, Tristan and Colin D'Agostino are both going to be talking about when to submit to the Market Center for review, how often. And the basic idea is we have 3 stages for the transaction: the listed stage, the under contract stage, and the closed stage, each requiring its own set of documents. Essentially, if you finish out the listing documents, submit them. Finish out the contract documents, submit them. Finish out the closing documents, submit them. It doesn't mean that you can only submit 3 times. It just means that 3 is about the average. Okay. So now that we've done all that and we understand that we have a form that is now a PDF in DocuSign, I want to go and I want to show you a PDF and why they're not fun. So to do that, I'm actually going to cheat, and I'm going to go into this signed PDF, the one that's already signed. And remember, this one has a bunch of blank fields because we didn't fill them out. And I'm going to print this from command, and I'm going to print it as a PDF, and I'm going to save it to my desktop. So I'm going to save this to my desktop as a PDF. Boom, boom. And we're going to call this signed. And I got it. Great. Okay, now I'm going to close this up. And all I was doing was just printing the document as a PDF to my desktop. That's the extent of that. Now I'm going to go back to DocuSign. And in DocuSign, I am going to bring in, as remember we talked about adding documents from my computer. Well, I can do this. I can click on the add button and hit computer. And I can say that there are documents on my desktop, and one of them is that signed PDF, and I want to put it into DocuSign. So I'll go ahead and click open. So here is the same exact document. It does have the signatures on it, but in this case, it's a PDF now. The system has no clue about any of these fields because as far as it's concerned, it's just a piece of paper. It doesn't read anything. So that means I can't fill out any of this data because the system doesn't recognize them as fields. So if I take this document, this PDF, and I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to take it into an envelope, just as we did with a form, but this time I want you to notice one major difference. Because the form that we used was able to recognize who was supposed to be the signer using those pre-tagged roles, there is no pre-tag role option for PDFs because it doesn't see anything, which means we have to do room participants or email addresses. And I'll choose room participants and say that the person who's going to be signing this is Jackie Astuto. She does in fact hold the role of seller 1, but it's not going to know where to put her on the document because there's no fields. So I'll hit add selected and the system goes, great. So you've got Jackie Astuto in the role of seller 1. But now you got to put the fields on the document. So we did the same thing as before. And now when we come in here, here's the misery. PDFs have no clue about what's on the document. And as such, if we needed to add a field for signature, if we needed to add a field for an initial, if we needed to add a date signed, we have to go get everything. If we needed somebody to type something out into a line, we have to add the text box. If we need checkboxes, we need to put the checkboxes out there manually. Now we can do this. Now I'll be honest with you, if there's just a couple of tiny spots, this is fine. But if you're doing this kind of a document with these multiple pages, there's no way that you would want to do this manually. And that right there is why we do not use PDFs as fillable forms, because they can't. So we only use DocuSign forms for filling it out. PDFs are great when it's all filled out. Somebody did a wet signature and you're just a wet fill out and you're kind of just scanning it, maybe having somebody initial it. So you send a fully filled out PDF to someone else for, initials. That's fine. But for the fill out process, we definitely don't want to use PDFs for this if there's more than a couple of these little slots where we need to put things. Okay. So forms, they're fillable objects. They come from the Association of Realtors, the boards. They are maintained. They are kept up. They are, the fields are relevant. We never have to worry about them being out of date. They're automatically filled out for the people that are supposed to sign them using pre-tagged roles, knowing who's in the room, and everything works. PDFs are valuable, but they're a different purpose. We don't want to use them as the initial documents by any means because you can't do anything with them. You can only add fields to them. Anything else that you add, I'm going to go ahead and say save and discard. I should just discard this. Any other type of documents that you bring into the documents area, there are different things you can bring in. For example, you can bring in Excel documents. This is an Excel document that I just dropped in the window, by the way. So yeah, I can bring in a PDF. I can bring in this case, it's still being built here, so let it think. Let's see how long it takes. There we go. So this is an Excel spreadsheet. All right. So nice, easy. We can bring that in. As a matter of fact, I can even take this and have somebody sign it. So it's an Excel spreadsheet that I could just drop a signature field on and use it. So I can do some pretty cool stuff. Images can be brought in here. Word documents can be brought in here. Same rules. You still can't fill them out, but there are some things that you can bring in. So think of it this way. There's two entry points to get objects into DocuSign. From the library of forms, which are fillable, and uploading something from your desktop. If you upload it from your desktop, there's no fillable fields. End of story. That's the end of it. If you upload it from the library, there's fillable fields. Questions? No? Got a couple people still hanging out on Facebook, and some people. Nope, nobody's left in the YouTube room. Natasha, you look bored.
No, not at all. I don't have any questions. I'm probably going to retake this again, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you go over the same things in each 101 class? And
generally speaking, but I try to mix it up so that if somebody does
Okay.
watch one, there's a little bit of different information. But generally, yes. And this particular class is available. Right now, we're doing it live. And when it's done, it will be available on the YouTube channel, which I'll show you here. It's
Okay.
because it's being broadcast on YouTube. It's also going to be available in our learning management system. And if you have not signed up for the LMS yet, if you go to kwclmtraining.com, you'll see this big orange banner here. I made it nice and bright. And there is a sign up button. And you will have access to all the training courses here at KWCLM. Now, you will need to use your KW email. So make sure you use that when you sign in, because it is restricted to just us. But once you log in there, you'll have access to all of the training materials, and you can watch them at your pace. Okay. All right. Well, if we don't have any questions, then keep in mind that at the end of the day, after an hour of yammering on here, forms are fillable, maintained by the real estate boards. Anything else is a document that you bring in is not fillable, and you'll have to manually add those fields and objects yourself. They're kind of tedious. It's also not guaranteed that those documents that are external are up to date and the most recent. Okay. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll go ahead and bring up on the screen here my information about how to reach out to me. And it is command@kwclm is my email. You can always email me there. The YouTube channel that we keep on talking about here is kwtechtube.com. My time on my calendar, if you want to book any time with me, is timewithrobert.com. And the Tech Lab, which is our Monday, Wednesday, and Friday walk-in labs virtual, that's this room here, and that is kwtechtv.com. It's also where we do any of these private meetings and the classes. So it's all of those rolled into one. The Facebook training feed is my Facebook page, which is the Market Center Technical Trainer page, facebook.com/MCTT463. The nice thing about that page is that you're going to see all of the training classes in order of when they were broadcast. So if you're looking for something that's recent, you just go in there and scroll down the feed, and you can find the most recent training. And then, of course, our LMS, our learning management system, kwclmtraining.com. We urge everyone to get an account there. It is free for you. There's no cost. This is part of the services we offer here at Coastal Lakes and Mountains Realty. And we're glad to have you here. And hopefully you guys will check that out. Okay. So now that we've done all of that, I think I can go back to this. Here we are. All right, so that's it for this class. In 1 hour-ish, we're going to be doing the command 101, and that's contacts, the heart of your database. And I encourage you to check that one out as well. That's going to be very informative about how contacts really are the center of everything that we do here in the database. And then at 3 o'clock, we're going to talk about designs. So Natasha, thank you for joining me. Thank you for all of you joined on YouTube and Facebook, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.